Hey guys, if you like this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys liked the video and subscribed to my channel. It helps make these videos worth it going forward.
What's up, guys? Altcoin Sherpa here with a crypto market review. As always, this is not financial advice. I am not an expert. Do your own research. Today, I just want to talk about Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum and maybe some altcoins. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so today we are seeing Bitcoin pull back a little bit. Um, I'm really conflicted as of right now. I actually don't know. I don't have a clear idea of what's going on. And there's a lot of conflicts going on in my head. For a few reasons. Number one, so I guess let's just break it down. So, what's the argument for a bearish case? The bearish case is that the trend is in a high time frame, bearish market structure, lower highs, lower lows. We haven't quite seen anything that looks like a reversal pattern yet, in my opinion. For instance, reversal patterns and macro bottoms, they take a really long time to form. If you've seen my last few videos, you'll see that the macro bottoms really take like weeks, and I don't necessarily know if we've quite bottomed out. With that said, this overall move looks quite a bit different than what we saw back in May, of course. So, therefore, the reversal is probably not going to look the same either. But in the past, it's taken a long time for macro bottoms to form. The bearish case, obviously, as I said, is still lower highs and lower lows all throughout this trend. But one of the short-term bullish cases I can see is that we might have broken market structure if you denote this recent January 12th area as a high. So if you denote this area as a high, meaning this 46 or 44.6K area, 44.7K area as a high, we technically broke that as a higher high here. Now, what I'd like to see for absolute confirmation is this low at 41.5K, this being an established low, in which case this would be a higher low relative to what we saw back in January. So to put some notes here, here we go. And so for me personally, an absolute confirmation would be something like if we can break 46K, then again, I think that this would be a clear higher high. But again, it really depends on what you denote as highs and lows. Retail traders, we have very subjective um, ideas on the chart, and highs and lows can sometimes be deceptive. So, for instance, like it's sometimes difficult to tell what's going on when price is actually chopping around. So, for instance, if you compare the price action back in September, price had this move up from its consolidation. Obviously, this looks pretty good. Had a big pullback from 52 all the way down to 42, followed by a move up to 49, and then a further dump. So at this point, you might have, you can argue that this is just like a bearish market structure, right? Because you have high, low, lower high, lower low, right? But we all know what happened next. This wasn't, in fact, a bearish market structure. This, in fact, was a macro low being printed, where macro lows take quite some time to form. This one chopped around for, I think, several weeks. So 3 weeks. And obviously, we know what happened next. This was just, it pulled back and then it moved higher. So what you would actually denote this as is you would just denote this entire thing as a low, in my opinion. So like you see, you can start to see low, higher low, higher low. And it's so much easier to analyze this stuff after the fact. It's so easy to analyze this stuff in hindsight. Like while you're experiencing this, like, when we're in late September, everyone was like, oh my god, all right, well, it's back down to the lows again in 30K. This just looks over. Bearish retest. We're just going to go lower. But in fact, um, we obviously know we did not go lower. We went to all-time high levels. So what changed in this consolidation pattern? We saw high, low, lower high, lower low, and we kept breaking down. But to me, one key aspect was when this 49K area got broken. If you can count this as a high, if this last high on September 17th. And when you see that get broken, that level get broken, then it's a higher high. And of course, if you even look a little bit farther and you see this 53K level get broken, again, that's a clear higher high. So you can see market structure on lower time frame charts. That's usually where it's going to show the most information, but there's obviously a lot of chop that goes on in lower time frame charts, but that is where you start to see the shifts in market structure, on the 1 hour and the 4 hour. But for now, as I said, you can already start to make some arguments that we are in a bullish market structure if you denote this last January 12th move as a high. If you don't denote that as a high, and you might consider something like, late December as the highs back in the low 50Ks, then of course we have not broken that yet. So for me personally, I'm waiting to see where this next move is. I honestly am having a very hard time thinking about where price is going to go next. I had this idea that price was going to go to like 48K or so, or low 50Ks. And again, there's a lot of confluence in that area. It's the point of control right around 48K, 47K, and the 200-day EMA is right near that area as well. So I was thinking that price, moves up, gets everybody very bullish again in like the low 50Ks, and then we have like one final shakeout. I don't know where it's going to be. Either to the low 30Ks is kind of what I was projecting. And then we just chop around for a little bit, and then we find like a kind of macro bottom, similar to what we saw back in May, June, and July, where price just chops around for a while. This would be pretty good to me to see price, make a move up and then chop around. I have seen some people state that the lows are in for the year. I don't, or like, the next few months. I'm not so sure about that personally, just because I don't really know if this is the way that bottoms form. With that said, I do understand that the slow grind price action of lower highs and lower lows does look quite a bit different than May, and we probably don't need as much buy volume on the way up. Mainly because on these lower highs, there are sellers that are getting filled here, whereas on this big market nuke, there's still a lot of sellers that haven't been reached or tapped, when after price consolidates for a while. Anyways, this is kind of one idea that I'm currently viewing is just like, price going up to the low 50Ks and then nuking lower. I certainly think that's a possibility. I will be taking that time to de-risk, and I've already de-risked already around here. I do think it's hard to really denote personally what the market structure is, though, on higher time frame charts, because I don't necessarily know if I do consider this kind of consolidation a low, or I'm sorry, a high. If you scroll down to lower time frame charts, you can see that the EMAs are actually fairly healthy. And this is actually one of the other reasons why I'm short-term bullish, is because the 200-day EMA finally got flipped in early February, February 4th. And for the first time in quite some time, you can see that the EMAs look good ever since, the last time they looked actually pretty reasonable was in November. and we haven't really seen this 200-day EMA be flipped, and we haven't seen the other EMAs really be flipped at all until recently. Hence why I actually think that the trend looks okay for right now in the short term. Now, is this like the overall bottom? As I said, I don't know. I don't think so personally. I still believe that we still have one final shakeout left, but it is possible that we grind higher. And where I'm going to change my outlook and my bias is if we certainly break above like the low 50Ks. I think that you have to argue that this would be a higher high at that point. Then I really am going to see where the low is printed. Because it's almost inevitable that we hit some sort of lower high relative to the moves back in November, similar to what we saw back in May. We were going to hit a lower high somewhere along this area. Like, we weren't going to see this price go from 30K to 60K all in one go. You're going to hit a lower high, and of course we did hit a lower high, right? Right around 53K. We hit this lower high right here, and then the key for me was really seeing where the low was printed, and the low, in fact, was printed at 40K. So similarly, I think that we hit some sort of lower high, either like 53K, I don't know, well, 48, I don't know, maybe even 46, maybe it's here, I don't know where it is. But to me, it's really important to see where the lows are set, because if we hit some sort of higher low relative to like 33K, then I think that things look. That's what I'm really willing to consider switching my bias, and to consider thinking that that we look okay in the midterm. Now, with that said, I was definitely wrong before. Like, I really felt that we were going to hit a higher low relative to the lows back in September. So, for instance, this was like the last true low, in my opinion, right? In September 27th, this like low around 40K. I was like, okay, like, we go up to 70K, and then we're gonna hit some sort of higher low. I don't know where it's going to be. Like, even if it's at 42K, then it's still technically a higher low relative to this 39K area. But we all know what happened next. We didn't hit a higher low. We nuked lower, like far lower than this last consolidation area, and that was very surprising to me. So with that said, I don't know what to think. If we go up to 50K and then hit a higher low, like that's what I'm expecting. But I'm certainly and this is one scenario in which I am willing to change my bias. But as of right now, my bias is still going up to 46 to 50K or 52 or something like that, and then we grind back down to the low mid 30Ks, and then we kind of chop for a little bit. That's kind of like what I'm expecting, and this would make a lot of sense to me as well. Like, maybe we're short-term bullish going into seeing what the Fed does, and then the market will react accordingly. So that's kind of like my overall idea on Bitcoin right now. I still believe that we're short-term bullish. But with that said, I am looking for another move to the 30Ks eventually. I just don't know how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. And I'm also, if I'm willing to change my bias, I'm willing to change my bias if we hit like 52 or something like that, and then we establish some sort of higher low. And then, we obviously move higher. That's obviously one clear scenario which I need to change my bias as well. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry, I am not going to review altcoins on this video. I reviewed some yesterday, but yeah, maybe tomorrow I will. Take care.